Hello, everyone, and welcome to On the Preds with me, your host, Alex Doherty of A to Z Sports, and Sean Smith of On the Forecheck. Welcome in. We are ready to talk Preds, and man, the Predators are red hot. Winners of 4 straight and 5 of 6, I believe, and just really doing a lot better than they were at a few points in the season. We've got several games to recap, some pretty dramatic wins, some dominant wins, some feistiness from the team here and there. Sean, how's it going, man?
Oh man, so it's going pretty good. Doing a lot better than Preds wise than we were last time we talked. But I'll say this: I like what you've done. The place it looks a lot better, a little more festive.
Does it? Yeah. Okay. So I what I figured is that we would start slowly adding decorations. So this is me just getting out the tree, and I threw some ornaments up on the tree.
Okay.
Next show, there'll be a few more.
Okay.
In fact, I guess we'll only have maybe one more show until actual cursives actually happens. So
Yeah, I think
right?
we've just started decorating a little late. That's fine.
Don't worry. Next show is gonna be intense in terms of the
Okay.
decorations.
I hope so.
But you've been doing good. I know you've had some hockey with your kids have played hockey are playing hockey
Yeah.
now, right?
Yeah, my son, he just turned 7, so he's playing 8U mites, and it's definitely interesting. You know, he's always played here at the house in the hallway. We call it hallway hockey, and in his mind, he is the best hockey player. It's there's no comparison. So it was really fun to see him get out against some kids, and a lot of the kids have already played a season or two. So there's definitely a learning curve he's going to have to go through. But after we get
Sure.
done recording, they're going to go do a scrimmage, and they'll pick teams this week. So it should be pretty exciting for him to actually feel like he's playing for real instead of just in the hallway.
There you go. Well, good luck to him, and I hope that as a parent, it is as much fun to watch your kid play hockey as it is this professional team that we follow. Probably more so.
Probably more so. A lot more buy-in, literally.
Uh, so let's recap this particular week. Let's go all the way back to last Tuesday. The Predators began their road trip that they're on right now, that they will finish tonight in New York. They began it in Detroit, home of the Red Wings, and also some apparently very sensitive fans. So Nashville started this game without Mattias Ekholm due to a non-COVID illness. No word on what it might have been. Most of us were suspecting the soup because of what had happened before. Josi Saros was also out, so David Rittich would start this game. He would actually end up starting 2 games in a row for the first time this season. Ryan Johansen gets a power play goal on the back door. Roman Josi does his best Connor McDavid impression and makes it 2-0 Preds in the first. Robbie Fabry gets a rebound in the second period to get Detroit on the board. But then Nick Cousins, big fan of the podcast, restores the 2-goal lead for the Predators with a very nice backhander over Nedeljkovic. He got a little turnover in front of the net and then just backhanded home. It was really, really pretty play. And then Eeli Tolvanen deflects the puck for his 3rd goal of the season. He's heating up. NBA Jam. Couple late goals that don't mean a whole lot, and then the Predators win 5-2 is the final. Let's talk about this game really quick. Detroit Red Wings really aren't that bad of a team, to be honest. So it's not like it was a cakewalk. I mean, they're a pretty good team. What do you think about this game?
You know, it's one of those things I think sneaks up on you and surprised you because this was a team we saw a lot last season, and they were kind of like a punching bag. And so I knew coming into the game there was going to be a lot of I think I tried to steel myself for the fact that this was a better team. Well, I think a lot of fans are probably remembering last season and going, oh, this should be simple. But I feel like they went in and did a pretty solid job. And honestly, you know, you talk about Eeli Tolvanen heating up, or you talk about the Nick Cousins goal, and you're starting to see, I think we talked before about the depth contributing a little bit more and seeing contributions out of people aside from just the guys on the top lines. I think you started to see that shine through a little bit in this game. I was very happy to see it. Rittich, I mean, you know, it's kind of funny. I think we've seen a little more shuffling with goalies than we saw even last season, you know, due to various injuries, non-COVID related illnesses, COVID related illnesses. But it's nice to see him come in and stand tall and have a solid game. I'm pretty happy about that. I can't really complain about anything from this game. So
yeah, it was a pretty solid win. I don't think let's save David Riddick for later, because I have a theory or a thought on him particularly, as it relates to the goaltending situation, especially for next year. But we can save that. The one thing that stood out from this particular game to me was it was the beginning of a really, really good week for Roman Josi, where he makes that incredible goal. I'll say this, he got a tad lucky on that goal, in that he got a friendly deflection. So like the defender that he went around successfully poke checked the puck, but he poke checked it back into Roman Josi's stick. That it's impossible to ignore that factor. However, the amount of skill that Roman Josi had to even make that whole play happen, and then to finish it off in such a successful way. I'm taking nothing away from Roman Josi, but I just want to throw that out there. And go ahead.
I was going to say, I think it was earlier that day. I'd seen some current Norris predictions based on stats and numbers and advanced analytics, and Roman Josi wasn't in the top 5. And I'd asked, and I was genuinely curious, like, based on the model, where does Josi fall? And I got a response that he was, based on what they were looking at, it wasn't going to be very good. And one of those things where, I look at the advanced stats and the numbers as little as possible, but then I'm curious, is what I'm seeing matching up with what the numbers are seeing? And the numbers were seeing that Josi's not very good. Then he turns around and has this goal on Tuesday night. And I'm like,
here's the thing about those stats for the Norris. They mean nothing for the Norris Trophy.
Oh.
Absolutely nothing. So, like, I like yourself. Probably like yourself. I look at the stats too. I look at not just the box score stats, but like also the advanced stats, and I understand how they work. I understand their place in the game, their predictive power of success in the league. The Norris Trophy is not even like, no one looks at the Norris Trophy voters do not look at the advanced stats. That's been clear for some time now, and it's going to come down to whoever's leading in points. That's what it was for Hedman. That's what it was for Carlson. That's what it was for Drew Doughty. That's what it was for not Dougie Hamilton, but Mark Giordano when he won. Like, it has nothing to do with the advanced stats. So like anyone who thinks that those are going to influence the Norris Trophy does not understand how that vote is going to be calculated. It's just like the Vezina, where it's wins and shutouts. If you got wins and shutouts, you're going to win.
So what you're telling me is that Roman Josi is not a bad player.
Well, no, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying that at all. I mean, I think that, but what I'm saying is that for this arbitrary vote on this particular award, in which it is all about basically 2 stats, goals and assists for defensemen, he is going to be a finalist and possibly win that trophy.
Makes sense.
Maybe actually what I'm saying is that all the awards are flawed in how they're awarded, which is except for the Stanley Cup and except for probably the Conn Smythe. Those are the 2 trophies that have a lot of meaning and are well earned. The other ones are generally a product of a system or a particular player's, luck that year. I don't know. That's probably unfair, but anyways,
you heard it here first.
Do what?
You heard it here first. Awards are based on luck. According to Alex
Yeah.
Doherty of A to Z Sports. No.
Yeah. Yeah, someone's going to come at me without that, but that's all right. Whatever. So yeah, that game was a nice start to the road trip. But then they go to New York to face the Islanders. After Tuesday, the Preds trot over to New York to face Trotz, their old boss, but their new enemy. We got to love Trotzy, right? I mean, Barry Trotz for that.
Got to.
Austin Zarnik puts the Islanders up 1-0, but then just like on Tuesday, Ryan Johansen scores first for the Preds. 1-1, tap-in goal. Then another turnover, and the Preds break into transition, and the third line makes it happen. This particular goal looks like a carbon copy of another goal that happens. There was a trend happening here. We're going to look at this goal later, where the fourth line, whatever you want to call it, the Trenin, Jeannot, and Sissons, and or forget the other person that played on that line.
Olivier?
Matt Luff.
Oh, Luff.
Yeah, I think that's who played on it. Anyways, that goal happens to make it 2-1. So then Anders Lee gets a power play goal. Really just out-muscled the penalty kill. That was a really nice goal by Anders Lee. I think he's a really underrated player. Good power forward. Good, just all-around good player. Anders Lee is. Really like him. But then Noah Dobson makes it 3-2 New York. So, in the third period, the Predators are down a goal. Not so fast, my friend, because Yakov Trenin bangs one home to tie the game. But even though Tanner Jeannot is the one that made that play because he used his speed to get around the outside, Yakov Trenin ties it. And then with 11.5 seconds left, Roman Josi sends a shot on goal that Eeli Tolvanen tips home to give Nashville a 4-3 win, stealing the 2 points from New York Islanders with just 11 seconds left. So really impressive win there. Dramatic finish to that one.
That's exactly what you want to see in a game that is that tight. You don't want to see it go into overtime unless it's going to be, something spectacular. You want to see it in the last couple of seconds, shut the door on them, not give them any 10 seconds. I was listening to the radio the other day and they said, there's 5 seconds left in this game. That's plenty of time to get a play going. And that's true. But, with 11 seconds left, chances are, for the most part, it's over. And I think that's what you wanted to see was let's just take care of this during regulation and get out of town. Let's not go into overtime. Got a game the next night. There's no reason to push it. So it was nice to see that happen. And honestly, it was nice to see that happen to Eeli Tolvanen. And it's funny, I think we've talked about Tolvanen heating up, right? We've talked about Tolvanen scoring, these redirects and things like that. And I think people have started to get a little critical, like, well, it's not the kind of goal he should be scoring, but he's doing it enough that I think you can make an argument that he's doing it on purpose and it's something he's worked on. So I'm happy to see that happening.
He has scored in 4 straight games. He now has, how many goals on the season does he have? 5? Yeah, five goals in 27 games, but 5 of those goals have come in the last 10 games or whatever it was. Yeah. No, that's wrong. His first goal was earlier on in the season. His last 4 games. Let's actually take a look at that tipped goal because I want to just take another look at it because it was a pretty crazy tip here. So let's take a look at that go-ahead goal with 11.5 seconds left.
Dobson just throws the puck up the wall there. There was nobody there. That's a tough play at that point, assuming somebody's there, but you can see it's Matt Barzal coming back. He's just a little bit delayed, and then that's a tip by Eeli Tolvanen right in the high slot. You can see he did lead the.
So one thing that's cool about that tip is, normally you don't see tips from that high in the slot area. You're a little closer. He was coming across the higher slot area because there was just a forest of Islander players crowding the net. And when that shot comes in, it's coming in pretty slow. I mean, Roman Josi is just kind of putting a wrist shot on net. It will never not impress me that they can do that so easily, that they can tip, 99% of the time they're going to get their stick on the puck and it's going to be redirected towards the net. Just such an impressive thing. It's just normally when you see them try to tip things home, they're a little closer to the net. So when he tips that from 15 feet out as opposed to 5, it's just that much more impressive to me.
Well, it's all about angle and vision. And I think that, like you said, it's never not going to be impressive to you that they're making contact with it. But more than that, it's the angle, and the angle from 5 feet versus 15 is totally different. And there's going to be
going this way, trying to tip a puck coming this way. Yeah.
With a stick that's angled and curved.
Yeah.
It's just knowing your equipment. It's knowing what you've got, what you need to do, how you need to hold your hands. Like we talked about with that Forsberg goal in overtime the other week was, how much time did he have to pick up that stick, get his hands positioned correctly, and get into place before the puck was coming? It's not a lot of time. highly trained individuals who know what they're doing out there. And I think too, I mean, to say more about Tolvanen, when we talked about him earning that spot on the team last season, a lot of it was talking about what he was doing away from the puck and how he'd learned in Milwaukee from Carl Taylor to do all of these things besides just shooting. And I think, you know, we've said a lot this season that there's definitely been solid play from Tolvanen. The goals just aren't coming. And now, like I think several people have predicted, I'm not going to name any names, those goals are coming. And yeah, they're not all these, you know, snipes that you would expect to see, but they're coming as the result of placement, positioning, and knowing what to do with your stick when the puck's coming. And that's just as good. They all look pretty on the scoreboard. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and John Hynes talked about that after the game. I think that was after this game or maybe after the Devils game, but where he talked about that he's learning to score multiple ways. In order to be a good goal scorer, you have to be able to do that.
Yeah.
And then and we're talking about this in a second, he scored a very Ellie Tolvanen-like goal in New Jersey where he just cranked one in his first power play goal. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's go ahead and recap the New Jersey game. That was the very next game. Some lineup shuffling because Jusi Saros comes back in. He's back from like a kind of whatever happened with him. But then now Matt Duchene and Colton Sissons are out. Undisclosed upper body injuries day to day. Doesn't seem to be too serious, but really we have no idea. We have no idea what it means. So it's the second night in a row that the Predators go down 1-0. This time a Pavel Zacha scores. But then 2 minutes later, Philip Tomasino gathers the puck around the outside, goes behind the net, and finds Roman Josi in the circle wide open on the far side. Roman Josi's wide open with the puck in the high slot. That's bad news for the goalie. He ties the game. 4 minutes after that, I just mentioned it, Ellie Tolvanen cranks home his first power play goal of the season. Just an absolute rocket from the side of the power play that he scored several goals last year. So they have a 2-1 lead. Excuse me. At the end of the second, some Predators thought that Jack Hughes took a dive. I'm sorry, at the end of the first. Some Predators thought that Jack Hughes took a dive, and they took exception to it. And there was like this little fracas where PK Subban, former Predator, was getting into it with some players who weren't even on the team when he was there. So it wasn't that big of a deal. But that was kind of interesting. And I went and watched the play. I think it was a little bit of a dive. I didn't think it was too bad. I mean, I think he got kind of hooked, and he went all the way down. I don't know. It was, I guess it was probably a dive, but no worse than anything I've ever seen.
So you're saying it was a basketball dive, not a soccer dive?
Definitely more basketball than soccer. Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
But what that did was that opened up the game to be a lot more physical. After that, the thing just completely there was no scoring in the second period because teams were just trying to hurt each other out there. Tons of big hits, lots of jawing after the play and such. But then Yakov Trenin makes it 3-1, another transition goal. And I'm telling you what, like this goal looked very similar to the one in New York, with one exception. Just the way it kind of, some of the players on the ice were different, but it was very similar to the one on Thursday. So that made it 3-1. The Devils made it 3-2 late, and then because they pulled the goalie pretty early. But then Ryan Johansen gets a really key face-off at the very end of the game, 5 seconds left in the defensive zone. He wins it, pins it up against the boards, seals the win, 3-2. Predators win, fourth straight W. All right, let's talk about this New Jersey game. What'd you think?
Well, first and foremost, it's exciting to see guys contributing like Yakov Trenin. We talked a lot, I think, in our last episode about maybe the last couple of episodes about how most of the scoring was coming from the top two lines.
Yeah.
And it's not to say that those lines weren't contributing anything, because we certainly know that line has an identity. They have a role out there, but we also saw them score a lot last season. So it's kind of, maybe this is a return to form. And we said, if you can get the rest of the lineup hopping, then the team's going to do a lot better. And I think this is a good example of exactly that. I think Yakov Trenin, and I feel like we'll probably end up talking about him a lot, but I feel like going back to last season, one of the few times we had a chance to talk to him after the game, he made some comment that said something about, when you're playing this style of hockey, or this is the way they want me to play, or something like that. It kind of alludes to the fact that maybe he can do more than just be a very, physical player. Maybe he's got some shooting talent, some scoring talent too, that we're not even really seeing. I think I saw that in training camp earlier this year. And now you're starting to see, maybe they're not all, nasty snipes and things like that, but he's definitely getting to the right spots and knows where to go, and is ready for that puck when it comes, and can see things developing. So I think, any indicator to me that this is a positive trend is a good one. So seeing that scoring coming from the lower lines is good for me. I think maybe we should talk about one of the more interesting things that happened in the New Jersey game. Involves Kyle Granlund getting into a scrap with Nico Hischier. So believe that was the first fight for both of them. So that was really wasn't much of a fight, but it was definitely a fight nonetheless. So I don't know.
Fin on fin crime.
Fin on fin crime. And that's, to me, that's surprising.
We could talk about that. I did want to stay on the Trenin transition thing for a second, because
let's stay on it.
I want to show the goal that he scored to make it 3-1 New Jersey, because to me this indicates, early on in the season, I think we talked about where's the strength of this Predators team. I think this right here indicates one of the strengths of this Predators team, and that is their counterattacking transition game that John Hynes has been talking about ever since he got here.
Yeah.
That he wanted this to be part of their game, because he wanted it to be a solid defensive structure first that capitalizes using their forwards in the transition, instead of five attack defense jumps up into the play, which is risky, as we saw with Laviolette. That's what he did. This is utilizing the forwards, creating the scoring in transition, capitalizing on turnovers and stuff in the neutral zone. This is a good example of that. So let's show that goal real quick. This is from, this is from New Jersey to make it 3-1.
Play under the stick. That allows them to come out with possession and speed. And it ends up right on the stick of Trenton on the rebound, but a clean exit out of their zone makes for that transition, and then a smart shot off the pad for the rebound, AJ.
Yeah, and you look at this, we've been talking about this line, but they're usually with Colton Sissons, and that has been a fantastic line for this team, for Coach John Hynes.
Okay, so the big thing that I want to look at there, and I might actually show it again here in a second. The biggest thing that I see is, first of all, it's in transition. So if you notice, the Devils only have about 3 players back yet. I mean, the other 2 players on the Devils team are trailing the play. Yeah. So they're really not involved. I mean, there's no way that they can change anything from happening unless the Predators slow up the play. That's the first thing. The second thing is that when the puck comes back to hang on.
Play under the stick. That allows them to come out with possession and speed. And it ends up right on the stick of Trenton on the rebound, but a clean exit out of their zone makes for that transition, and then a smart shot off the pad for the rebound, AJ.
Yeah. Okay. So when it comes to Nick Cousins, so Nick Cousins collects the puck at the top of the zone there. He has options. He can either send it, and if you notice, he's looking up. He's either going to send it to whatever defenseman on the Predators is coming into the zone to get a shot from the top of the zone, or he's going to send it on net to try to get a rebound. He chooses to send it on net to get a rebound, and that works and leads to a goal. But on Thursday against the Islanders, what did he do? It wasn't actually him. It was someone else. It was Sissons, I think. He sent it to the top of the zone, who that person fires it on net and gets a rebound. So, there's options. In the transition game, you want options too. You don't just want speed and quickness. You want options. You want to be able to have the option to both send it on net to get a rebound, or to have a pass that's going to create a better angle, all while the opposing team still is scrambling to even get back in the zone. And that, I think, is really what is a huge strength of this team. And there's been so many goals that look like that, several this week. but also previously. So like, and you're getting it from that line. You're getting it from the Duchesne, Granlund, Forsberg line. You're getting it from everywhere. So it's really, really good to see, I think.
Well, it's not just good to see, but you mentioned the John Hynes system, or this was his plan from the start. And I think it's funny, we've both been covering the team as long or longer than John Hynes has been here. And so I think the big conversation with him coming in was, how long before you think his system is in place? And I remember talking to Nick Bonino, if it gives you any indication of how long ago it was, about that. And he said, oh yeah, I think we're doing what he wants us to do. I think his system's fully in place and everything. And I'd have to disagree for once with Nick Bonino and say that I don't think it was anywhere near what Hynes wanted. And I think you're just now starting to see what he wants starting to work out on the ice. And I think I asked John Hynes, I don't remember which game it was after, but I asked him about Dan Hynes. And I keep going back to this because I'm starting to hear a lot of what Dan Hynes said the day he was hired being echoed by the players now after games. And it has to do with playing hard all night long, doing the little things, when you could choose very easily not to do so, finishing your checks, going after every puck, making every loose puck a battle with the other team, and eventually wearing their defenders down. And then you start to see the game open up at the end because their team's tired. And what's interesting is I remember him saying that because I said, that's a really great plan, but this is a team that we typically hadn't seen give a lot of full 60-minute performances. So when you hear guys after games make comments that say, we finished our checks all night, we wore down their D and opened things up at the end of the game, and you're seeing that happen night after night, that tells me that this assistant coach that's come in with the intent of making that happen, it's taken some time, a little over a season, well, maybe a full season if you think about the length of last season compared with how many games have been played in this season. But it's taken about a year, taken about a full season to really get what he wants to have happen going for the team. And I think that's what you're starting to see work really well for them, is that they're committed to this being hard to play against situation that has been so often thrown around recently. And that's where I think you're starting to see that change on the ice. You're starting to see the identity of the team not just change, but become, that's who they are, not an identity they're trying to reach, but who the team is.
Yeah, I think it's actually taken longer than a year in terms of games. John Hynes has now coached 111 games with the Predators, and he actually has a 586 points percentage. Sorry, 586 points percentage. That's not as high as the Laviolette's was, but that is higher than that's higher than Hynes had at New Jersey. He has better players here. So I'm going to add to what you just said because I think it's a good point. The two thing, if you were to talk to Predators fans at the end of the Laviolette era, where the team was really struggling and what they were frustrated most about, I think here's what they would probably say. They would say that the top players are not producing. And so in some way, Laviolette has lost them. Guys like Ryan Johansen, Matt Duchesne when he first got here. And they would say that defensively, the team is like just a mess. That they frequently were leaving Pecorine or UC Saros out to dry. That penalty kill was a mess. That they struggled to keep good offenses off the board. I think that those two things we're starting to see under Hynes are starting to be remedied. Like the defense looks better. It's not great, but it definitely looks better. They're doing a better job of keeping opposing offenses out of the way. Their penalty kill still needs work, but that'll come. And then the other big thing is the top players are producing, as it says right above me, right here. The top players are making top plays. Ryan Johansen and Roman Josi are crushed it this week. Previous to that, Matt Duchesne and Philip Forsberg were crushing it. Mikhail Granlund has been crushing it all year, and we've been talking a lot about Yakov Trenin and that line. I would consider those players top players because remember they were pretty much all of the offense, all of the team late last year, that those guys are top players too. So like they no longer really have just role players. They have top players all over the place. You still want to see more from someone like Matthias Ekholm, maybe. You need to see more from the bottom pair. Maybe you'd like to see more from, Eli Tolvanen's one that he's scored in 4 straight games, but we want to see that more consistently. There's still things to work on, but I think that if you are not a fan of the Laviolette era at the end of it, especially, I think you have to be hopeful with how the John Hynes era has finally gotten started.
I agree 1,000,000%, and I know. I don't know why. It's been something that's frustrated me so much, but I think people expected Hynes to come in and either for things to turn around immediately or for things to just go so badly that it was obvious that, they needed to move on. And you got to give a man some time to get things going. Yeah. And if you look at the situation he came into, if you really look at it, he takes over the team. You've got COVID, you've got the return to play, you've got the shortened season with the only in-division play, no training camps, nothing. And this is what you're getting after one full training camp with a lot of turnover. And you've got a younger team. And so these are guys that can come in and jump onto that style instead of hanging on to what was there before. It drives me crazy when people want to fire this man, because I feel like he hadn't really gotten a chance to get things going until now. And I think, like you said, if you weren't a fan of the way the Laviolette era ended, this is exactly what you wanted. Should be happy.
You want a better defense, you want a winning team, and you want the top players that are making all the money to contribute. And they've been doing that for 26 games now. Speaking of contributing, I just wanted to throw out some numbers here. So we got Ryan Johansen this week. Johansen had 2 goals and 3 assists in 3 games. Roman Josi, 2 goals and 4 assists in 3 games. Both those players have been just money this week. Roman Josi, I threw out this information in the 2 games that he played against the Islanders and the Devils. He skated for 47 minutes in 27 hours. He skated for 47 minutes. He was on the ice. When he was on the ice, the Predators had 56% of the shot attempts, which is great. And they had 4 goals and only gave up 1. And so in 47 minutes, that guy was a North caliber defenseman. And there's a reason why I tracked that for the Islanders and the Devils. Do you know why? Do you have any guesses as to why I wanted to look at that specifically against the Islanders and the Devils? Any guesses?
No, I have no guesses at all.
Because one Mr. Adam Fox plays against the Islanders and Devils all season long. And so what I was trying to do is I'm trying to build some little nuggets here of Roman Josi being at least as good, if not better, than Adam Fox this year, because I have a feeling it's going to come down to those two. And I want to be able to say, well, look at Mr. Adam Fox playing against the Devils and the Islanders. Well, he's built up a lot of stats. Well, here's what Roman Josi did against those teams. So that's why. I
like that. That's smart.
Yeah, well.
I actually had a guess, but that wasn't it, and I'm glad I didn't guess it. I'm not going to say it out loud. It'll be too embarrassing. It's stupid.
Okay. Tanner Jeannot and Yakov Trenin. Let's talk about them real quick. I got some more stats here. 68% of their starts have come in the neutral zone and defensive zone. Now, real quick about zone starts, and this is something that always bothers me. People talk about zone starts and like as if it really has a whole lot of weight. It has some weight. It does not have a lot of weight because the vast majority of a player's starts come on the fly. They don't come on a whistle. So that's something. But when they do get started, and it has to do with their deployment, right? When they do get started on a whistle, most of their starts, 68% of them come in the neutral zone or the defensive zone. So they're already up against it, right? Especially in the defensive zone. But they still, in all that time, are +1 in goals at even strength. They've scored, they've been on the ice for 10 goals, and they've only given up 9. And their expected goals and their like shot attempts and all that stuff are just fine for what their defensive role it really is. So that unit right there, and I say Jeannot and Trenton only because Sissons is been out. He was out the last game, and then it's been kind of it's mostly Jeannot, Trenin, and Sissons, but that line has just been great. So, but those two in tandem specifically, I think you see them working together so much. I mean, like they're when they're on the ice, they're working together so much. So, I just wanted to mention that.
I like to think of them when they're on the ice together as just giant bookends on the ice. Like they're holding everything in. They kind of control things between them. If that makes sense. I don't know that they're very large people in general, but I feel like when they're on there, like everything from the sides is just kind of held in by those two. Nothing's getting by them on the boards. When they're out there, they're going to keep it all either they're going to smash you against the boards or keep the play in the center of the ice. So
there you go.
That's how I look at it.
Very cool. All right, let's briefly talk about. We have not given enough love to Juuse Saros this year. Let me show this one save because I thought this was great, and this is going to lead into a discussion actually about David Riddick, but and not a long discussion. I just want to show this mostly because we haven't showed a Juuse Saros highlight in a while, and we need to do that. So
we do.
This was from the Devils game. I think this is just such a good example of how good he is, and I know Shaun, you and I have talked about this at Predators games. I love watching this guy. When especially when I'm at the game, I find myself watching Juuse more than the team when the rest of the team when they're in the defensive zone, because I just love watching how he tracks the puck. He's just so good at it. I think this is a good example. I mean, this puck goes literally from one side of the ice to the other, and he tracks it the whole way and makes the save. This is cool.
And Saros is there in extra time. I mean, he's got time to burn here.
Well, that's what we were talking about too before. Is just his.
If you watch that play, and I might play it again here in a second, his head is following the puck the whole way, and he tracks it and identifies where it is at the exact right time, and he makes that save with his blocker. That's not a very easy save. He makes that save with his blocker and then collects it in. Normally what you would want to do with your blocker is to just block it away, right? But he knows that he can't give up a rebound there, so he kind of collects it in. It kind of comes tight and almost squeaks through in between, but he's got such good positioning that he collects the puck so easily. So Saros has been great this year. He's been so obviously their best goaltender. Anything you wanted to add there about that play?
Well, that's just when you hear people talk about lateral movement. If you ever wonder what lateral movement is, there's a textbook example right there. It's that vision to see the puck, track it across the ice, and get from one side to the other without really losing your positioning to where you're ready to make that play. Like the announcer said, made it with plenty of time and he made that look easy. That's not an easy save, but it looked easy to him because he was able to track the puck so easily and get where he needed to get as quickly as possible. So, I mean, that's all I've got, but that was a great save. I knew exactly which one you were going to play too.
You knew?
Yeah. I mean, just based on what you were saying, I was like, I think I know which one this is.
Right. And I think, okay, so the major difference between him and Riddick, well, actually, the major difference between Saros and Rinne, other than the size, is Rinne was kind of not ever really known for his lateral movement. That was kind of how to beat him, was his lateral movement was just not as good because he's just a bigger guy.
Right.
I see the same thing with Riddick. He's a bigger dude. He's not Rinne size, but he's bigger than Saros.
Yeah.
And I see kind of the same thing. I think he's not as good laterally. There have been a couple goals where he's not been quick to move. He's not looked like that. He's not been tracking the puck quite like that. He's okay. But I think my point is this. I don't see David Riddick being on this team longer than this year. There was a thought in my head when they signed him that, if Connor Ingram takes a little bit longer, or if he struggles in the AHL, and if Askarov is not ready to come over, that maybe they signed Riddick beyond this year. I kind of just think Riddick is a one-hit wonder for this team. He'll have some starts. He'll probably start, 20 games this year at this rate. He's going to start probably no more than 20 games.
Yeah.
And then he'll probably be gone. So I don't know what you think about that.
Rate wise, I'm sure I'm sure a lot of the fact that the pace he's on is a little bit lower because Ingram just happened to be up, or happened to come up because Riddick was sick, and had to make a couple of starts. I'm sure that had more to do with the numbers than, any like lack of faith or anything like that. But I still agree. You're probably looking at one season, and I'd say, and I think I said this before somewhere. God knows I say things in a lot of places, but I think the plan had to have been for Ingram to be the backup goalie this season. And I think going into the players' assistance program and getting the help he needed with that just made that timeline shift a little bit. He didn't get to play that much last season at all. And when he did, it was clear he needed to shake off some of the rust. But I think they wanted to make sure that he had a solid season under his belt in Milwaukee, that he could come in basically, game ready. And for whatever reason, they're like, we're not there yet. We got to have somebody else just to make sure. Go do a season in Milwaukee, and then we'll bring you up. And I don't know that conversation happened, but I have to think that's what they're thinking.
Yeah, I think that's probably true. And I'm not banging on Dave Riddick or anything.
No, not at all.
Guy, but like, I don't see it beyond this year. I think that if they were to be in a situation where he had to be the ace, he had to be the guy, I think that would be a bad situation. Speaking of ace, good transition. So there was some video that came out of the Predators' post-game locker room situation. So they've done stuff like this before, and they have been somewhat coy about it in the past. I remember there was a dog chain at one point. At one point, there was a boxing.
There's a dog collar, right?
Dog collar. There you go.
There's a wolf head.
A wolf head, a dog collar, and then at one point there was a boxing robe. I remember Philip Forsberg had a boxing robe on.
Yeah.
And he didn't explain. I can't remember who asked him. It might have been Adam, but someone asked him about it, and he said, "No, we're just going to keep that in the locker room." Well, if you've seen the videos this week, the Predators have some sort of a post-game locker room celebration involving a giant Ace of Hearts costume.
Yeah.
So it looks like the Ace of Hearts, and it's like a sandwich board, like you see people wearing on the side of the road, advertising like a gold. Come sell us your gold thing, or like a Subway, eat fresh, whatever.
Or the end of the world is nigh.
Or that, yeah, right. Exactly. So it looks like that, but it's got a Predators logo in the middle of it, but it's the Ace of Hearts. And so we've seen that. I think Jakob Trenin got one. Jusi Saros got one. Did someone else get one? Who else got one? Ellie Tolvanen. Yeah, it was this week. Yeah. We saw Tolvanen, we saw Trenin, and we saw Saros get one.
Yeah, and so I'll notice.
Go ahead.
I noticed too. I just I try to pay attention to little details, but around the Pred head logo in the heart, it seems like there is maybe the guitar pick logo with the player's number in it, or something like that for each of the wins they have. So I'm assuming that whoever gets it gets to put their number on it, just to kind of almost like Ohio State Buckeye football helmet,
okay,
achievements we've had or something like that. So
okay,
I think
after the game, I guess it was last night or Friday night rather, Adam, I think I was ready to ask this question because I really wanted to know, but then Adam beat me to the question. Basically asked, what's the deal with it? It seems to be some sort of a post-game celebration. And Roman Josi shut him down and said, "We're going to keep that in the locker room. It's a players thing. It's for our team. It's just something fun that we do," which makes sense. Of course, that's perfectly their right. It doesn't seem to be anything other than a player of the game. Yeah. I mean, like I'm on a team. We have a fox head. We're the Foxes, and so we have a fox head that we give. And whoever has the fox head can give it to whoever else they want to for whatever reason. And we've never sat down and like really dove into like what the fox head means and what could it symbolize. But naturally, because this is a professional team, we're going to try to do that. Did you have any theories on what the Ace of Hearts, why is it an Ace of Hearts specifically?
It was funny because when Adam asked Josi, did give a little, and he said he said something about heart. It had to do with heart. And so I think, it's who played with heart, or who had the heart of a champion, or something like that. And it's kind of funny, you talk about your team with the Foxhead. I think we've seen a lot of these things around the league. The Kraken have the Davy Jones hat from the Pirates of the Caribbean movie. That they're who is it that's one of the owners of the team? That was it Bruckheimer? Is that who it is?
Oh, I don't know.
But he it's the actual hat from the movie that he donated for them to use. I saw the Blackhawks had like a wrestling or a boxing title belt that they were handing out. I think everybody has something like this, and for the most part, it is something they want to keep. And I think it's funny. They're a team playing a sport. Granted, they're professionals, so they've got a lot of people watching and paying attention. And we report on everything. I remember several seasons ago, my wife was on the I don't know whatever the event they had for ladies. I don't remember what it was called, but it was very stereotypical ladies event. And they showed like the locker room.
heels and hockey sticks or something
like that. And hockey and heels. And when she was in the locker room, they had just brought in Saros's gold pads for the first time. Oh. And she took a picture and was like, "Hey, look at this." And that was, this random thing that, my wife noticed. She's like, "Hey, I haven't seen these before." We put it on Twitter, and it's like, "Oh, gold pads. Oh, everybody's going crazy." But I think it's nice that they can have one little thing that they keep to themselves, and I'll definitely afford them that as a member of the media. Like, you know what? It's fun. It's cool to see who's wearing it and who's won it, but I don't need to know why, and I don't need to know what it means. It's just important for them to have that.
Yes, certainly. But because they didn't tell us, I think it's okay to speculate. And so I'm going to speculate. And so I have looked up something. This is in jest. I don't actually think this is what it means. But I went and looked up some symbology. So symbology, the study of symbols, study of what symbols mean. And specifically, the Ace of Hearts, and I'm going to read this from this website called metasymbology.com. The Ace of Hearts means, so all aces, any kind of ace represents a wish or a desire. And specifically, the heart represents, obviously, love and relationships. So the Ace of Hearts really means a desire to be loved. So whoever gets the Ace of Hearts is just someone that needs to be loved. In my reading of what this means. But it also, here's the other part. That's the first part. And then there's this other part that says the ace is a number of the self and often translates into selfishness. Negatively expressed, the Ace of Heart will flirt and skirt around the object of their desire until they see what love can do for them. So I think what that means is that the ace, because it's the Ace of Hearts, they are taking their self-desire and expressing it for love as opposed to expressing it for themselves. So I think this means that it's a player that has not only has a desire to be loved, but also loves their teammates more than themselves. That's what I think.
Okay. All right. That's definitely a theory. I like the way the first concept there was. It reminded me of the buddy bench at an elementary school when you needed a friend, you need everybody to play with. You'd sit on the buddy bench, and someone would come. Oh, you need to play with somebody? Come on, man. So I don't know. Maybe that's.
There's also this other part that says that Ace of Hearts have a gregarious and magnetic personality, which can attract many business opportunities. They always want to look in the eyes of others and appreciate beauty while striving for self-improvement. They are creative, but find it difficult to make choices in regards to work and health. All of that is about the Ace of Hearts. And I only read all that because they didn't tell us what it means. And so now we can speculate on what we think it means.
I'm going to say that if you look at, the timing of the start of the season, high probability that, there's the Spirit Halloween stores open and whatever recently closed down Electronics Express building that's nearby, and people were shopping and they were like, "Oh, hey, this would be funny." That's my guess. I don't. It's probably not as cool as your guess, but
probably a good guess.
I like it.
Okay, let's talk about the week ahead. The Predators tonight, we're recording this on a Sunday, they play the New York Rangers at 6 p.m. to finish up the road trip. And then they finally come back home. They play Tuesday against Calgary, everyone's favorite. Calgary Flames on Tuesday at 7 p.m. And then Thursday, in what I think is the biggest game of the year so far, they finally play the Colorado Avalanche, 7 p.m. game. That's going to be the toughest test. That's going to be the test where we say, can this team actually pace with Colorado, who everyone thinks is a cup contender, who have not been playing particularly well? They've been McKinnon injured, and they've had some defensive issues, but goaltending is a question, I think. But they're still Colorado. They've got a ton of firepower. They're really good. So that's going to be a big test. Friday and then the very next night they go to Chicago. So that's going to be tough to play that tough of a game and then go play a rival in Chicago. And then next Sunday, this is crazy to me. They play the stupid Carolina Hurricanes again.
They're not even
4
cool.
p.m. game. And I went and looked. This is the 16th. I'm not making this up. This is the 16th time the Predators will have played the Carolina Hurricanes in the calendar year 2021.
That's crazy.
16 times.
Oh my goodness. That's I don't know. Let me say this, and we'll talk about the Hurricanes momentarily. But looking at that week, that's what, 5 games in 8 days?
Yeah.
3 games on the road. I mean, that's intense. I mean, granted, after this game tonight on Sunday, they'll be home and they don't play on the road again until Friday. So at least there's a decent amount of home time, but that's a pretty intense schedule.
Mm-hmm.
Picking up Colorado, granted, playing at home. And we've talked a lot about, okay, so we need to see if the Preds can kind of roll through some of these weaker teams. So now you're looking at a really stout team, and you want to see, now that they've kind of shown that they can handle business when it comes to I would say some of the teams that aren't as good as others. I don't want to say they're bad, but when you're playing against a team that should be an easy win, they're winning. What happens when they come up against very, very stiff competition?
Yeah.
That's what I want to see, and I think we all want to see that. But then, the Hurricanes, come on. I mean, 16 times, and I know a lot of that has to do with the playoffs too. But man, what a mess.
They had a 6-game playoff with them. Yeah, the good news is I think that's the last time. That is the last time that they will play them this year, and potentially for a very long time. So maybe even like longer than a year, because unless they were to meet them in the Stanley Cup final, which would be crazy if that happened, they wouldn't play them again until next season. And, maybe the schedule works out to where it's like later in the season too. So potentially after Sunday, the Predators are done with the Carolina Hurricanes for a very long time, which would be great because I'm very tired of seeing that team again. Yeah. And also they have a bad record against them. They're 4-8-3 in those 15 games so far. That's not very good. So, that's going to do it. So that's the week ahead. Like you said, 5 games in 8 days. That's going to be quite a big test for them this week. But the Predators are they're on a 4-game win streak, and they're in 3rd in the Central. They've got a decent shot at getting some points out of these games. So we'll see what happens. You can check out all of our hockey coverage at A2ZSportsNashville.com. Please check out On the Forecheck as well. Read Shaun and all the OTF people over there. Follow me on Twitter at AlexDoherty1 and Shaun on Twitter at SCSOTF. And we will see you next week. See ya.